Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Morning Gardener, and the reason why I'm stopping by is because something's on my chest. Excuse me, had me thinking. I've been watching quite a few videos this week, and also, like I said, I'm collecting seeds for my garden for next year. So these are all seeds that came in the mail, and I got them, and I'm getting them now because I know the price will go through the roof. So I'm getting them now. Also, I made a complete I could call it impulse buying. Oh, thank you for the thumbs up. Um, and I made an impulse buy, which was I purchased a speaker, some like 2,000 watt speakers. What the heck was I thinking? I can't play them in the house really, but I'm using them for two purposes. One is to use them for karaoke purposes, and also to listen to music and hear all the nuances in the music. And I like that. I like that about them. But they are loud, folks. I have never got them near turned up the way they could be turned up. So that's what I'm saying is that they are some powerful suckers. I mean, right God, when you put a microphone plugged in and you're doing your thing, they are crazy loud. All right, excuse me. I saw a video where a man had a tomato and he had it sitting on a scale. It was close to 4 pounds, and showed the tomato, showed the weight, and then went off and never told you how he grew it, what he used, how often he watered it, when did he start the plant, nothing. He just showed you tomatoes. Now, I think it's good that people have that ability to be able to grow food that is large or grow large quantities of food, but to show others and not pass that information on is kind of sad because you could actually be watching videos if pass that knowledge on, and everyone would have large tomatoes, large cucumbers, large watermelons, and it would be more interesting to look around on YouTube and see those pictures. But you don't have that. You have people, quite a few people actually, that are struggling in their gardening ventures or gardening hobby or gardening. Their love for their garden. They struggle. And I see it because I've been there many times, and sometimes even I have problems. But the thing about it is, it's kind of like a fantasy in a sense because what people do is they look at the packaging and they see the colorful big tomatoes and the watermelons, and they got the droplets of water on them. And you're looking at that and you say, boy, I can't wait to get started this spring, or boy, I can't wait to get started this summer. And some of us are disappointed when that time of year comes. They're very disappointed because they're not able to get those type of results. Excuse me. A lot of it has to do with lack of skill and a major factor is where they're growing this at. Poor soil quality, very poor soil quality. Planting over and over and over again in the same location is another big issue. What people don't realize is that if you keep pulling all the nutrients out of that soil constantly each year, you just pull it out. You're not going to get what you're looking for if there's no nutrients in that soil. Um, I talk about chop and drop. I try to get people on to that because it's one of the cheapest ways you could actually take um, um, vegetables, weeds and grass clippings. If you have a mower that collects grass clippings, for instance, and you use that and put it around your plants, as a mulch, they will feed, they will moisten, and they will regulate the temperature of your soil. Why wouldn't you use that? Well, some people don't know about it. They think that everything they need to do that relates to gardening or relates to even farming, they must go to somewhere and buy something. I must buy something from a box store or from a farm store, and this will make the difference. Well, a lot of times That's not the answer. Your answer is actually in acquiring knowledge about not only the plant that you're growing, but also the soil that you're growing it in, the weather in your location, um, and and finding out exactly what it is that plant needs are. You have to have some knowledge of this in order to, or you're just going to be hit and miss each year. And as you keep using the same locations, you grow tomatoes in this spot this year, you grow tomatoes next year in the same spot, you grow cucumbers in the same spot, you grow kale in the same spot. You're pulling nutrients out and you're never putting it back. So spring comes in and you get this bag of fertilizer, whether it be organic or non-organic, and you put it down in the location and you hope. And the plants grow slowly, and the plants uh, doesn't grow as abundant as you um, read on the packaging of your fertilizer bag, or you're supposed to get these results and fertilizer this often. It's when I say often, I mean how often you actually fertilize. What are you trying? Hello, morning gardener. Hello, how you doing? This is garden and family. Hello, how you doing? All right. Just talking about gardening was one of my favorite subjects, and I'm talking about uh, acquiring knowledge. When you trying to grow a plant, you need to know what it needs, and if your location and if you have the ability to. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Absolutely glad to hear that. I've been watching some of your videos, um, but to uh, to find out what your plants need. Because when I see people growing things, it hurts when I see them. They are struggling. I see plants that are small and undernourished, and I just what else can I say? But I know what that feels like. I've been there. And it was a gentleman that put a video out. I can't call his name. He's an older gentleman. I was just by the sound of his voice and the picture that he has on his Facebook. He's in his 70s and he enjoys gardening. But I sent him a little note today. I said, listen, he has these beautiful peppers. They're like almost this long, like 12 inches long, and they're about this big around and whatever. And he's got much success with them. He did a very good video. The sound quality was good. He was very knowledgeable. But one thing he never talked about, he talked about the size and the taste of his vegetables. He talked about where he purchased it at, the seeds. But he never told you how he grew it, what he fertilized it with, what kind of soil he had. He never told you any of that stuff. So, and I think that's very important because people need to know. So I dropped him a little message and say, hey, I love your video. It was a great video, but I'm just suggesting maybe you might want to add any videos, information about how you grew this, and you help others out because somebody might be watching. You might have a mother with children that's gardening, and or a father that's up in age and he has grandchildren with him, and he's interested in growing food because of the cost of food and the quality of the food that you're getting in stores. You want to do better, and you might be some information somebody could give you that might actually help you. That might actually help you. And if they don't know, they think that their videos are just to show you how big this tomato is and then go, all right, thank you very much for watching my tomato. No, give them some information. Here's how I grew it. Here's what I used. Here's how often I fed it. Here's how often I watered it. Even if you touched on just those four, you would help people out immensely. Um, uh, and so when you do that, when you grow even fruit on trees, you tell them about purchase a tree, cut it off at the knee so the branches will be at the right height when it grows. Um, I didn't fertilize it until the tree started to show signs of growth. That's the best time to fertilize it. Some people put fertilizer in the hole with the tree. I don't I don't like that because when you do that, the tree tends to keep its roots right there in that hole longer than it should. It should be going out looking for food, not staying in that one hole. But it's like a kid that uh, you feed and give money to go to the movies or whatever, and he'll stay right there on that couch as long as he don't have to work or go do anything else. He will stay right on that couch and like a Hoover suck down sandwiches and soft drinks and you'll be like, man, he's 40 now. I mean, come on, he's got to move on. But the thing about it is grow, set your set your heights higher when you're growing food. You want quality. You want it high in bricks. You want it to be totally dense with nutrients. Now, how do you do that? You find out what it needs are, and you feed that to the plant. You don't stress your plants. You make certain that they get enough to eat. You make certain that they get enough to drink. You make certain that you're not putting them out when you come around to spring and summer. You're not putting them out too early because you could actually, your plants could actually be stunted when you put them out when it's too cold. Don't do that, especially with warm season crops. They don't like it, and you'll stunt a plant, and you'll wonder why this plant is sitting there like this and it's not growing. It's just sitting there for weeks and weeks on end, and you're not getting anything out of it. Um, if you want to save money, start growing your own seedlings. You ever see how beautiful, big, and burly the seedlings are when you buy them from places like Lowe's? Well, Lowe's definitely have a good quality. Barney's, I think the name of the company is, and they supply Walmart, they supply Home Depot, and they supply Lowe's. Look at the thickness and the richness of those plants. The people who grew those plants know exactly what they're doing, and there's no reason why you couldn't do the same. You can do the same. You can do absolutely the same. You can have your seedlings big and burly, and you'll never go back to them for another $3 or $4 plant. One single plant. You could buy a pack of seeds and say you're growing peppers. You really only need four plants, but you put about 10 or 15 of them growing, have them growing, because what will happen if one dies or a plant insect kill it or whatever, you can go right to your backup and put another one back in the ground. And that's what you want to be doing. But long story short, make certain that you understand what your plant needs and have that available to that plant. I know you have a life and you have to work, and sometimes you might not get out there exactly in the morning to water that plant, but have it on a schedule. If you're watering it every let's say every 2 days, say for instance, use that as an example. Make sure that you try to get to that plant. If you know that your plants do better with rainwater as opposed to water from your house, make sure that you get them that water from the rain. I mean, I use a rain barrel system, and it works perfectly, and it's cheap to operate, and it's also saves me on my water bill. All those pluses. And when you keep the cost of your gardening down, it's just more appreciative. You appreciate it more um, when you have a beautiful garden and you realize all I bought this year was seeds. All I bought this year was a sharp blade from a lawnmower to chop down the weeds and grass, and I use them as mulch, and they feed. And if you lay them on top of your soil, an example here, this is a piece of cord here. This piece of cord here. Got your vegetable in the ground here. It's in the ground, and you put around that plant grass clippings. When you put the grass clippings around, what will happen? The worms will come out, and mostly they do it at night, and they will drag down the nutrients from that grass, creating air pockets around the roots so that your roots can get air, oxygen. They will also pull the nutrients down at the area where the plant can get to it. And it's just a win, win, win situation. You let Mother Nature work with you. Let her work with you because that's what she's there for. To make sure that your plants do well. So keep that in mind. And I'm not going to talk you guys' ears off because I know I have a tendency to do that. And I can know that because I can tell by my law, the number of people that usually show up. What is like the highest number I had, I think, was like 13. And to me, that's a good thing when I get about 13 people in here. But I try to give information that's correct. I might not be the most entertaining, but I give information that is correct. And so it comes from 20 years of gardening. Um, and I think that if I can get as many people addicted to gardening as I am, if I get, it's just going to be a beautiful thing. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, just got here, but will uh, anyone? Thank you very much. I'm glad to see that you enjoy the content of this show that I put on, and I try to, get others to help each other out, and that means like giving out the information. Here in Maryland, our main problem that we have with a lot of our gardening and farming as well is we have clay soil, and a lot of you have clay soil. And clay soil is a thing that will stunt your plants because if you don't have that soil right, and what I mean by right, if you don't have organic matter in that soil, enough organic matter in that soil where that soil is fluffy and flaky, and it has a good consistency to it. And if you don't have that soil set up like that, that soil is not going to grow big, burly, healthy plants. It's just not going to do it. Keep that in mind because you can change that by just simply saying, all right, what do I need to do? I'll get some wood chips. I will get me some leaves because at this time of year they collect leaves, and leaves are out there abundant. I drive by them, and every time I drive by them, I look at them and say, look at that. That's perfect. They in clear bags. You can see what you're getting. So you don't want to be taking, accidentally taking people's trash. But you want to make certain that you do get the the leaves because the leaves are black gold. And what you want to do when you get leaves, you get as many as you can. Trust me, you can't get too many. North Carolina here, first time watching you live. Oh, thank you very much. And that feels good to get a new person into the room. Everybody say hello to them and make sure that they feel at home because I do my show sporadically. I tell people subscribe to my channel because when I pop on, you'll see me. And you might be at a situation where you're not really busy. You might say, "I'm checking them out, see what we're talking about." Main thing I talk about on this show is saving money and growing quality and making certain that when you do your videos, you give that information out to others. You say, here's how I grew these peppers. My soil is this, it's sandy or it's loomy or it's clay. I water it once a week. I feed it this kind of fertilizer. I do the fertilizer once a month. I do it every other week or whatever. And then you will help your fellow citizens. You will help them to do better because they'll be listening. And I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I was listening to your show and I learned how to grow blank, 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 blank from your show. And it feels good that I was able to help this person out. And it's just a beautiful thing. Um, so keep that in mind when you're doing your videos. It's fun to grow big peppers and it's fun to grow beautiful, beautiful tomatoes and watermelons, that sort of thing. But think what it would feel like to know that you help somebody else out as well. And they also can get online and they may give you a call. I mean, but if they do, if they don't, it's not a big issue. If someone says, "Hey, I learned this from the Morning Gardener show, and he was telling me that I could do this and improve," but keep in mind, try your best to understand your soil. Feel it sometimes. Put it in your hand, smell it, and feel what it feels like. See if when you ball it up and you open your hand, does it crumble apart or does it stay into a solid ball? Because that tells you something about your soil. And you want to learn as much as you can about your soil. The plants that you're growing, do they grow well in your location? You got your agriculture departments in areas where you live. Find out what they're growing. Find out what kind of watermelons grow best in that area. Find out what kind of corn grows best in that area. Make certain that you do that because you could be growing. You may like corn that might grow better in Georgia, and you're trying to grow it in Maryland, or you're trying to grow it in DC, um, and it just doesn't do well there. So you want to find varieties that do extremely well in your location, um, and that's all you want to do. I think that we composted before. Uh, uh, yeah. um, I want to say this, and I see what you have here. You say you think the leaves ought to be composted before you dig them in. So my neighbor digs in her garden fall leaves, and I first of all, here's where I'm at with that. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, and I want you to hear me what I'm saying. This is something I do. This is what I do. Don't mean it. You have to do it. I do not dig leaves in. I do not dig leaves in at all. Period. I don't do anything about digging in my soil and putting leaves. Why would I wouldn't want to go through all the trouble. I mean, I did that years ago. All these things that people mention, I pretty much done them. I had tiller. I had the leaves that were 2.5 feet tall, and I tilled these leaves into. I took a while, but I tilled them under, got them under the ground, and they were in the ground. And guess what? Um, I didn't have to do that because I learned years later the worms would do it for me. I could use a watering can. I could spread the leaves out. I could water them down with some human urine, which I could do straight urine. We might want to mix it down a little, but not very much. And you want to put the urine over the leaves. And what it's going to do is going to cause the leaves to break down quicker. So that's a free resource, human urine. Also, digging in the soil disrupts the homes and where the biology lives in your soil. You don't want to be doing that. You really just don't want to be doing that. It's just incredible work that you just really don't want to be undertaking. And yes, it doesn't look that all that tidy. But let me explain something. When the gentleman comes and he brings leaves to me, and they'd be like 800-900 pounds of leaves because he's a landscaper. And he says he don't ask me anymore. He just knows to go dump it right in the center of my garden. I come out there with a rake and I rake everything down where I spread them around. That's all I do is spread the leaves around and I leave them right there. And amazing enough, the wind doesn't really blow them away. Um, the leaves are there. They start to decay and break down. And I come out there in the late evenings or whatever, and I water them down with human urine. I water them down with human urine, and it breaks down those leaves. It adds a whole bunch of nutrients to my garden as well. Because remember, urine is a beautiful fertilizer. Human urine is a beautiful fertilizer. So you want to use that, and then you want to make sure absolutely that when spring comes, if you still have leaves on the ground, guess what you do to the leaves? Pull them apart away from the soil, and you plant your plant down in there. Put a little fertilizer around it. Um, until you get your soil. Eventually, you're going to get your soil to a point where you won't need the fertilizer at all. But you put the plant in there. The number of earthworms that will come into your garden is going to absolutely blow your mind. If you have to dig, you tour your garden again. Yeah, I'm gonna do another tour again. I'm gonna do another tour again. Ever since I kind of hurt my knee, I have been out of that garden. I'm telling you. I haven't really walked around it out there. I mean, I got trees that are overgrown. They got to be cut back. They are dwarf trees. Don't believe when people tell you dwarf trees only get about 8 and 10 feet tall. They don't. They'll get 20 feet tall. They'll get 22 feet tall. If the soil, if the soil is good, if you're feeding them grass clippings, if you're feeding them leaves, if you're feeding them wood chips, they will get big on you. Those trees will get big on you and be just as healthy and strong. But uh, getting back to what I was saying is that the key to growing your garden is feeding that soil. Don't worry about the plants as much. Just feed that soil. The leaves are free. Wood chips are free. out there. And sometimes I have trees that are growing throughout my property. They're just wild trees that grow, and I cut those back or take limbs and branches off, and I put those branches. I cut them about a foot and a half, and I put them around my fruit trees. I put them around my fruit trees, and they break down over time, and they fertilize those trees. And the only thing that I do add with that is I'll sprinkle a little bit of wood ash around those trees, very little, but wood ash, and that helps your tree to produce blossoms. Those blossoms are the reason why you get your fruit. We all know that, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. But the blossoms are, you want as many blossoms as you can possibly get. And that being said, wood fireplaces, pellet stoves, they produce tons and tons and tons and tons of ashes. And you can use that stuff. Don't throw it away. That is how nature fertilizes its garden. Absolutely. You said a mouthful right there. You said a mouthful. Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. And so you don't, I'm glad you mentioned wood ash because I burn wood ash and wonder if I could. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wood ash is a beautiful thing. But you must, and I repeat, you must be very careful with it. Don't think using more is better. Don't do that with wood ashes because wood ashes will actually change the pH of your soil. And let's say you have a plant that grows beautiful over in that location. You put too much down, you change the pH in that location, your plant will start to have some problems. Um, um, but make sure that you definitely use the wood ash. It is a free resource. Now, pellet stove burn ashes all the way down to just powder. And it would take me 2 years to get a 40-pound bag. If I burn a ton a year, it takes about 40. It takes me about 2 years to get a 40-pound bag. But when I get that 40-pound bag, or throughout the year, I just keep that. I just sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle around my rose bushes, around my apple trees, peach trees, and it will make the soil sweet and beautiful, and it'll save you from buying lime and all that kind of stuff. Um, it will do a beautiful job with your blossoms when the weather changes and that tree or that bush gets the optimum. Now, mind you, some plants you don't want to put wood ash around. Some plants that are like blueberries and berries, you don't want to change the pH of that because one thing uh, blueberries like is very acidic soil, so you don't want to change the pH on that with wood ashes. Well, I am going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Morning Garden. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Thank you all so much. Um, I wish I could figure out how to build a channel, but I'm going to keep reading going through those videos on how to get more people into your room, how to get more people into your discussions, and I'll use that because I think a lot more people could benefit from each of us sharing information with each other about gardening because it has gotten to the point that we cannot depend on our leadership here in this country. We can only depend on ourselves and make certain that you have a source of food, a source of food that you can dry or can, and you could grow some of your own food. That backyard of yours, that front yard, in some cases, that buckets. I've started also collecting buckets from the restaurants because a lot of times they throw those 5 gallon or those 3.5, 3 gallon buckets away, and it's a waste. When I see a guy taking them out to the dump, I said, "What was in there?" And he said, "Just fruit." I said, "Can I have them?" He said, "How many you need?" And I said, "Give me as many as you can." And I like doing it because you can cut your holes in them. And when you cut your holes in them, I like to cut mine in when they're about an inch away from the bottom, right in the sides. I go around them and put about 4 to 6 holes in them. And depending on the bit, and my bit is about the size of this battery here. And so think about it, folks. Make sure that you um, use every resource that you can. And when you put that soil in those buckets, Make sure that you do a real good soil mix because that's going to be key. Make sure that it drains well. It drains well. That's the key. And that oxygen can get to those roots. And there's tons of information on YouTube on how to make really good soil mixes. And you want to pay attention to people who've been doing it for a long time. You want to also your agriculture department that you have in your county or state, and you ask them, say, hey, how do you make a good soil mix, or how do you make a good soil mix for buckets or for raised beds? You want to ask them questions, and they'll usually give you some good information. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Morning Garden. I want to thank you very much for tuning in and paying attention to some of the rambling on about gardening that I love to do so much. Thank you very much. This is the Morning Gardener, and remember to keep on growing.